Hello masses! Today we have 4 news stories that are of interest, so let's get straight to them. First up is this news story from the BBC that 2 priests in Eastbourne have been arrested on child sex charges. Strange enough, they're not Catholic this time, which got my interest straight away because it's like, whoa, that's a bit different. Have we gone into Bizarro world? But that's not really what I want to talk to you about. What's really annoyed me with this news story is the BBC, and potentially other news agencies too, I haven't really looked around too much, have named the 2 priests that have been arrested. And to me, that smacks at not innocent until proven guilty. We're just going to assume that because you've been arrested, we can do whatever we want. We have something called judicial procedure in this country, and I have to admit, every time someone gets arrested, people just run roughshod over it. They assume that because you've been arrested, surely you must be guilty. But there's a huge amount of case law about people who've been found not guilty, not just about sex charges, but about all kinds of crimes. The police arrest the person that they think has done it, and then it turns out that they haven't. Or someone gets arrested because the police think that by arresting them, they might get a confession out of them. And it really gets my goat that the newspapers just run with that. So these 2 people have been named despite the fact that, at the moment, nothing has been proven. It's just wrong. Innocent until proven guilty. It's not exactly hard to remember, but we forget every single time. But having said that, if they're guilty, fuck them. Coming up next is the biggest disappointment of the week. When I was looking around for news this morning, I found a news article with the headline, "Alien Invaders Threaten Arctic Fringes." And I thought, hey, that sounds interesting. But it turns out that it's not aliens as in whoop 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 of flying saucers or anything like that. It's aliens as in species from other areas moving in. And what this is, essentially, is a news article about people not wiping their feet. People with seeds on their boots and other plant materials and things like that, walking into the Antarctic and leaving debris behind, which is then colonising, and lo and behold, we have species from some area elsewhere coming into the Antarctic. Yes, it's a bad thing, but just put a headline as alien invaders. That just, yeah, technically it's correct, but at the same time, you're being a massive disappointment. You're just making me click on it and then go, oh, and then click away. And that's no good, because if I was not looking for information for making a show, I'd have just looked away. Just a quick tip there for anyone running a website who actually is interested in their retention rate. Moving on to technology news, British Telecom and TalkTalk are both very disappointed today because they've just lost their appeal against part of the Digital Economy Act, which is one of the worst pieces of legislation since the Dangerous Dogs Act, where they're fighting against having to basically snoop on their users and report back to copyright holders and send out letters to people saying, we think you've been downloading illegal things. Stop that, it's naughty, or we'll cut you off. They're saying that that breaches EU law. And it does. And they're very unhappy that the courts have gone, oh, no, it's fine, because legislation says you have to do this, so you have to do this. The courts are hampered, I have to say. They're very much hampered by what they can do, because the courts have to listen to what the legislation says, even when it's wrong. So the courts are very much correct in denying this appeal. But at the same time, this legislation is pathetic. It was written by a ham-fisted dickhead from the previous administration who thought that an IP address meant your intellectual property address. The guy has no idea how the modern world works, but he was in charge of dealing with this act. So as a result, it looks like clowns wrote it, and it acts like clowns wrote it. But we have to deal with this pathetic thing until someone gets their head in gear and actually gets rid of it. So I'm going to be watching this with some interest, because now I think BT and TalkTalk, and hopefully other internet providers too, will be taking it to the European courts to challenge it on the grounds that it's a pathetic thing that has no basis in reality. You can't monitor everyone. That's just stupid. Hey, you want to monitor my internet use? I'm on here for 16 hours a day. I'm downloading things all the time because I'm looking up information and legislation and case law. I'm doing all kinds of things for my university course. I run 17 websites and I make videos, which I then upload. Oh, and I also use massive multiplayer online role-playing games which use a huge amount of bandwidth. Good luck trying to find anything in that. On to the final news of the day, and this one shows that it's not just the British legislative that is a bit out of date when it comes to modern technology. The FBI have announced that they've arrested the top members of Lulsec, And according to a statement from one of the FBI officers in charge of the arrests, and I'm going to read it from the screen here because I can never remember things. This is devastating to the organisation. We're chopping off the head of Lulsec. No, you're not. Let's just make this clear to people who don't really understand it. Lulsec isn't a dragon. It's aligned with Anonymous, and Anonymous, like Lulsec, has many heads. Lulsec is a hydra. You cut off one head, another one's going to bite you in the ass while the first head grows back. So, yes, you've cut off a head of Lulsec. Well done. Prepare for the aftermath. Now, don't get me wrong. As a legal person, I'm all for the correct prosecution of the law. And I'm all for bringing people who've done wrong to justice. But you can't go around saying, oh, we've cut off the head of this organisation, when you haven't. All you're going to do is annoy them. And to be honest with you, you can't just go around arresting people who are basically there fighting for the rights of everyone and expect them to say, oh, it's a fair cop, we'll come quietly. These people aren't going to come quietly. These people are crazy. So there you go. Good luck. I await the repercussions with glee. I'm going to go and get my popcorn ready. And while I do that, thank you for watching. I've been Zoe Kirk-Robinson. You've been watching a video, and I'll see you tomorrow.